Hey guys, it's Bill Vinci and Ryan Vinci with No Time for Nonsense. It's a Monday night. That means another great show we got planned for you guys. But tonight we are hanging out with former NFL kicker Steve Christie. Steve Christie, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Glad for you to join us. Ryan, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great. Can't complain. Beautiful day out. I mean,
Beautiful.
we had cold days the last couple, like last weekend.
Yeah.
So we have some of that nice warm sun.
We do. It's a beautiful day in New York. And how's the weather down in Florida, Steve?
Pretty hot. It's getting
Pretty
hot. We're in the summer. I
know. Yeah, this is the hot time for you guys down there. So, guys, before we get started with the show, I want to let everybody know, if you are watching live, give the video a share, spread the word, listen to Steve's story, and like our page at No Time for Nonsense. Also, we want to thank some sponsors for tonight's show. First, we want to thank Matt Grabsky at Out of the Way Cafe and Joey's at 307 in Utica, New York. Matt's back from vacation, and they got some great things going on over there this week. They got the turkey, bacon, spinach, tomato sandwich, the Little Mike Scarp chicken sandwich, the surf and turf, the tap room, and the buffalo chicken salad. Plus, they got outdoor seating now. So go down there, get a big breakfast, great lunch. Give Matt a call, put your order in. He's at 315-733-5060. Also want to thank the Pappas family at Geddes Bakery in Syracuse, New York. John and his sister and Pete, they got some of the best dough. They got some of the best breads, the cannolis, the pasta chocs, the spanakopita, the baklava. Everything made fresh daily over there. Incredible food. Plus, they got their pies. They got their cakes. Give them a call. Put your order in at 315-437-8084. Also, we want to thank Hillside Seasonal. These guys offer top-notch lawn care, landscaping, snow plowing, and removal. And they will assist you, and they're in Oneida County. So give them a call and get them over to your house, and they'll take care of you at 315-225-4570. And also our last sponsor, Bossone's in Utica, New York, for some of the best sausage around. And you talk about, they have all the prepared foods. They got the cheddar burgers, the cheddar dogs, sausage, stuffed peppers. They got all the prepared foods. Go down and see Carmen, Gina, and there's two huge Buffalo Bill fans, by the way. So they'll be joining us. So give them a call. Get your order in at 315-765-6409. So thank you to our sponsors for tonight. But we want to get right at it with you, Steve. Now, how are you guys doing through this whole coronavirus thing right now?
Okay, I have to say also thank you to the sponsors. And other than the landscaping company, which one of those restaurants are willing to ship some of that awesome food down to me in Florida? Because I'll tell you what, we have Casa de Pizza down here from Buffalo.
Okay.
I mean, they're fantastic. But all that you just rifled off there, man, I'm telling you, I'm starving now. It sounds so good.
Steve, you guys are going to have to come up to upstate New York sometime, you and the family, and we'll treat you to some great food here in the Utica, Syracuse area.
I bet. It sounds awesome.
All right, man. Well, that sounds good. So, Steve, you grew up in Hamilton, Ontario. Talk a little bit about growing up in Canada.
Well, I was born in Hamilton. I actually grew up in Oakville, which is a little bit, it's in between Hamilton and Toronto, and started playing soccer when I was about 4. And a few other sports, but soccer was my passion growing up. There was Celtic fans, Man United fans, Liverpool, Juventus, you name it. Mm-hmm. Even our neighborhood was sort of split up that way, and a lot of expats from England and Scotland, Ireland, and everybody had a pretty good time. And unfortunately for a lot of you guys out there, I don't know where your allegiances lie with hockey, but most of us were Leaf fans growing up. But lived in a really nice neighborhood, and I was able to do a lot of things. Went to Europe a couple times for sports, and but then when I at the end of my high school soccer career, I had to make a decision whether I was going to start playing football, and then from there, was I actually going to pursue that in college? And so I guess my point here is I didn't start kicking until I was 17, but because I was playing soccer all those years, that the transition was pretty easy.
Right.
But it was but back when you're 16, 17, it's a tough decision to make what direction you're going to go. And obviously it worked out, but there's a little part of me that wishes I stuck with the soccer. But my joke to even the guys I coach now, it's like, playing soccer, you're out there running around for 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. But as a kicker, you can finish the game off in 1.3 seconds. That's pretty easy.
Right. Yeah. So playing soccer, what position did you play?
I was a center back and a sweeper. So I was kind of back there. I did all the free kicks, and that's where I kind of built my leg strength up.
Yeah.
But, back then in Canada, the fields are pretty crummy, so you learn how to hit the long ball. There's none of this dribbling around in a phone booth like you see now. Right. We're out there in the mud, and you want to lay the ball out anywhere? Good luck. No, you got to send it. So that's where we learned how to hit the long ball.
Wow.
So is there any other sports you focused on in high school, or are those the two, soccer and football?
I played badminton at the national level with the junior team for a while, but that was my winter sport. Played some pickup hockey here and there, as we all do in Canada.
Right.
But really it was soccer, and it became soccer all year round, even in the winter. And like I said, it was a tough call to make, but eventually you kind of have to say, okay, where does my future lie? I had a couple of opportunities to cross the ocean, and I was too young, not mature enough to make that move because I still wasn't out of high school. And that's when I really started to consider, kicking and punting as something that I should do and pursue that at the college level.
So who is a team you followed or favorite players when you were growing up too?
Well, I'm a Glasgow Celtic supporter, but I love watching United and Liverpool back in those days. Kenny Dalglish and Ian Rush. And, there were so many. Pat Bonner in goal. Even though he plays for the team that the Glasgow Rangers, that's our rival. But their center back Butcher was really good, and people said I played a bit like him. But if I did, I'd be over there. I wouldn't be talking to you guys. But yeah, I love the game, and I still do. I caught Valencia and Real Madrid today, and I watch it every day. I still watch it.
At least you got it to watch now. At least it's back in the game where you can watch it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's no fans, and I think that's what we may be looking at least for the start of the NFL season. We're all crossing our fingers that that's a go anyway. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to be strange I think one of the big thrills, certainly playing in Buffalo, was coming out of the locker room with your teammates and being greeted by 80,000 fans, and there's nothing like it. Sunday afternoon at 1:00 in Orchard Park, it's it erupts. It just does. And doesn't. You're winning or losing. It helps if you're winning, but it's a real buzz. It really is a buzz when you come out of the locker room. And now, we've got the crowd noise piped in and the cartoon crowd in the stands. And, I hope we play, but it won't be the same. And it'll be tough on the players too at first, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Now, you went to, after high school, you went to William & Mary College. What did you pursue there?
I studied fine arts. I did a lot of oil painting, art history. I still paint. Donated a number of pieces to Camp Good Days and Special Times, which is a cancer camp for kids in Rochester. Oh, wow. I still paint. Every once in a while I'll do a commission piece, but and I do one every year for the NFLPA at Super Bowl. We a lot of the alumni get together and do paintings to raise money for some of the older players that don't get a very good pension or a good medical plan, because a lot of the guys that played back long before I started, the equipment wasn't that good and the pay wasn't that good and the benefits afterwards were almost non-existent. So I think that's an issue now with the new collective bargaining agreement that's being addressed. And these are the founders of the league. And I think one of the things I look at now, and I kind of view myself as a Bills fan. I mean, I know I played there and everything, but I've been out so long that I kind of take it from a spectator's point of view. But those are the guys that came in, they built the league. They're the ones that took the bad hits and were told to get out there again. Yeah. And a lot of the owners have changed. And a lot of the new owners are in there going, I appreciate what they did, but they weren't my guys. So, I think a bit of that too. I'm not pointing anyone out, but I think there may be a bit of reluctance of some of these guys saying, well, great, but I've got my guys now that I'm paying so much. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but without the guys in the 60s and 70s, where would you be? So
absolutely. Absolutely.
So then you signed a contract with Tampa for 2 years after you got out of college. How was that? How did it make you feel?
I've got to say this. I've signed a free agent contract with the Bucks. I was drafted in the first round in Canada as or I think still is. If you're a Canadian citizen, you take part in the CFL draft. And I was drafted by the Edmonton Eskimos, 6th overall, to be their punter and kicker. Nothing against the CFL, but the minimum in the NFL was more than what they offered me as a first rounder in the CFL.
Wow. Yeah.
So my dad and I think my mom was there, and my agent, Gil Scott from Toronto, was there. And Hugh Campbell was the GM in Edmonton at the time. And I said, all due respect, I'm honored, but I am going to take a shot down south first. And then the NFL draft passed after 12 rounds, and they passed on me. And I was like, oh, man, what's going to happen? And then the Buccaneers called out of nowhere. Said they liked me. I was at the Senior Bowl, and they liked my kickoffs. So they basically signed me as a kickoff guy, even though I worked out for 5 other teams before the draft. And all my buddies at William & Mary, they're all like, oh, man, all these workouts, you're going to get drafted. No. So my signing bonus was $3,500. After tax, it was $2,500. So, yeah, it's not like this is 1990, but, I mean, as a free agent off the street from a very small school,
right.
It's not like, they rolled out the carpet for me. Sure. It's kind of like you're one of the last guys to sign, and I was happy to be there. And I was fortunate enough to make the team. And then after that season, I renegotiated, got a new deal. And then after that, long story short, we were 6-10 and then 3-13, looking at my third head coach in 3 years. And Bill Polian called from the Bills. What would you do after they just were in 2 Super Bowls?
Right.
See ya.
Right.
See ya.
No-brainer. And we're Bucks fans. We didn't want you to know, but that's a no-brainer. Bucks weren't here until, a few years later we went to the Super Bowl and won it. But at that time, like you said, Buffalo coming off the 2 Super Bowl, it was a no-brainer to go to Buffalo to play in front of that type of, because there's no comparison with Buffalo fans and Tampa fans. As much as I hate to say, we don't even sell out home games, which is amazing to me.
Well, here's the thing. If you're not doing that well in Tampa, and I was in San Diego for a couple of years, same thing there. You don't want to go to the game? Fine, because you can go to the beach. You can go to Orlando or go to LA. You can go all these places. There's so much to do. The sun's shining every day. And if your team's not that good, why pay all the money to go see him lose when you can go to the beach all day? It's a valid point. Whereas in Buffalo, the Bills are on. That's what you're doing.
That's it. Yeah.
That's all you got.
Yeah, that's it.
How was it doing the weather change going from Canada to Tampa?
It was hot. Because I went to school in Virginia, I think that was my first with full gear on and 2-a-days. That was really hot. Not that I didn't play soccer in hot weather in Canada, but man, Virginia, wow,
all different.
It was different. And then going to Tampa, my rookie year, we were 3-a-days. They don't even allow that anymore. But we were 3-a-days down there, and the guys were just like at the end of practice, guys weren't even making it back to the complex. We used to practice at it was at University of Tampa, and where that stadium is, you'd walk across the street into the facility. Guys weren't even making it across the street. They'd stick them with an IV.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. But once you get used to the heat, then you can cope.
Right. Now playing in Buffalo, tell me a little bit about and I've never been to a game in Bill Stadium, but are the fans that crazy? Between the tailgate in the stadium, if you're winning, it's got to be. And we're Sabres fans, so we know when we're winning, there's some of the best fans around. But when they're losing, are they pretty brutal?
Bills fans will still go to the game, even if you're losing. They will still show up because. It's the pregame. The tailgating is unbelievable. The food is unbelievable. The drinks are flying, as we all know. Bowling balls in some cases. The whole table jumping thing, okay, whatever. But, there's a few things that go on. You're like, hey, man, thank God I'm over 50. I don't have to do that. But it's remarkable. We've been to games where we weren't even in the playoffs. And my wife and I would go. My wife, Kelly, and I would go, and it was sold out. And they're not in the playoffs, but Bills fans love to go to the games, whether you're winning or losing, and that makes it special too. It doesn't mean that it's okay to lose. It's certainly
right.
Because you listen to some of the radio stations, you'll hear it. because they live and breathe the Bills. And when you're not doing well, they'll let you know. But when you're winning, there's really nothing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you were involved in probably one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history, and you got your own onside kick, which was the first by a kicker in NFL playoff history, right? Or was that NFL history where you received – no, it was a playoff, right?
Playoff, yeah.
Playoff, the first time the kickers got an onside kick, and then you end up hitting the game-winning kick. That was probably – one of the greatest games I've ever seen. I mean, how exciting was it to be involved in that game?
Well, the first half was pretty frustrating.
Right.
And at halftime, Chris Moore, our punter, he's from Georgia, and I'm from Canada, and our accents are
a little different.
Yeah, but we're both saying the same thing. And I looked at him and I said, man, I gave up palm trees and perfect grass and great weather for this. And that was my first playoff game, right? So, and obviously Jim Kelly was out, Frank Reich was in. First half didn't go that well. And Darryl Talley was running through the locker room going, let's go, guys, it's not over, come on. And we're all, our little row in our locker was sort of saying, hey, let's make it respectable. Let's get something forward. This is embarrassing, right? So then Frank comes out in the first series of the second half, throws a pick for 6. And we're just like, wait a minute.
Right.
That's not what anybody was talking about.
Right.
But then, you need a couple big plays. The onside kick, what happened there, what made it work was I had Mark Pike and Mark Maddox on either side of me. And they basically made a V in front of me and knocked out those guys for the Oilers. And I just slid in there and the ball was just sitting there. It was pretty easy. Thanks to those two guys.
Right.
You don't get credit for the play.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And then Tasker, I had the ball and Tasker grabbed me and goes, get out of there. They're going to kill you. So sure enough. And then I put the ball to the equipment guy going, I don't know if this will mean something, but in case, I want that ball. So.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then getting the game-winning field goal, I mean, it's just I mean, for a Bill fan, that had to be, there's not many games that you see in a playoff game that have that kind of comeback, but that had to be probably one of the greatest moments, I'm guessing, in Bill's history. Yeah,
I'd say. And then, look at the games that, in that particular game, Phil Hansen, Andre Reed, BB. I mean, there were just so many guys who had great games.
Yeah.
It was certainly a team. Nate Odom's in overtime with so countless great plays.
Right.
And Frank's vision just to keep some of those drives alive was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And some of the throws that he made to keep it going. I think that's what made it special. And then, Frank was so humble after the game. And then, you know what? Here's the thing. We went to Three Rivers the next week and beat the Steelers on the road. Frank was still playing, and Frank goes, I didn't play very well. Are you kidding me?
I know.
The Steelers in the playoffs in Pittsburgh. Frank, don't undersell yourself. That was also pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, fantastic career in Buffalo. And like you said, you went to San Diego, you went with the Giants, and then you finished out in Toronto. But Buffalo actually signed you to a one-day contract to kind of finish out your career in Buffalo. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted to retire a Bill. Obviously, I was there for 9 years. And, when I left Tampa, one of the reasons I went to Buffalo was also the fact that growing up in Oakville was literally an hour and change from where I grew up. And if there's any team in the NFL that we were following, it would be Buffalo.
Right.
Even in the Niagara region in Ontario, not everybody and not everybody Charles a Bills fan, but so many are. And that made a big deal. That was huge for that. And because of that, I really wanted to retire a Bill. And then Jim Overdorf, who's in charge of all the contracts, he says, well, this is what you would have made. I said, can I get a proration overnight? He says, absolutely not. But I tried. I asked.
That's right.
So after your career, you went and you were with the Score Television Network. Is that something you always planned to do, or is that something that just kind of came to you as you went along?
When the years started coming with Buffalo where we weren't going to the Super Bowl, a good buddy of mine, Jamie Campbell, was working for Sportsnet in Toronto, and he grabbed me for the Super Bowl. So I was actually at that Bucs Super Bowl win.
Where you?
Yeah, doing the post game wrap up, and it was pre and post game, and it was pretty fun. I mean, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed kind of giving my point of view as to what the players feel like during a Super Bowl compared to, kind of going back to what it was like for me, and I could sort of relate that way with the pressure and also the kind of circus atmosphere that goes on for either 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on how it's set up. And but I really enjoyed that. And then when I retired, I got picked up by the Score and did a NFL show at lunchtime. And what was fun about that was my co-host was Adnan Burke, who ended up going to ESPN. Adnan and I would be told about 5 or 10 minutes before we started the show whether it was live or not. And this is nationally televised, so we kind of always went into work thinking, okay, it's going to be live. So don't mess up too much, know what you're going to say. But we were both pretty good at ad-libbing, and he was a big Eagles fan, so we always had a Bills Eagles thing going on, and AFC versus NFC, so I enjoyed that. And and then the Score got sold, and I was let go with all the hockey guys, and everybody else is like, you're way too expensive. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're cheap. We're cheap. That's how it goes. Yeah.
And then you did some color commentating for Buffalo, the University of Buffalo, on the radio.
Yeah, that was fun. That was Turner Gill's year. They did really well. They won the MAC and the game against UConn, and that was a fairy tale year, I must say, because they had some great players, but I don't think anybody knew they were going to be that good. And then I think Turner went to Kansas somewhere. I think his daughter was out there out west, and but that was special. I worked with Paul Peck, and that was fun because I knew Paul from Channel 4. I had a TV show years ago with Channel 4 when I was playing with the Bills with Paul, and that was pretty enjoyable, and it was fun to be part of that ride because it's tough to do that in college. It really is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, after with everything going on in 2014, you were diagnosed with cancer. Tell us a little bit about that and your emotions through that.
Well, yeah, it was, I just felt I was getting tired. I wasn't going to the gym as much. My wife kind of noticed that I was, kind of lagging around a little bit compared to what I'm usually up to. And so, typical wife, get in there, get checked. And mine ended up being rectal cancer. I didn't, I really didn't think it was much of it. I just, no big deal. Typical guy. I'm tough. I'm going to get through it. Well, it turned out to be pretty bad, and did radiation for 5 weeks with chemo pills in the morning and night, and then 2 surgeries. I had a temporary colostomy bag for 4 months. But everything's good. The only downside is that the effect of the radiation seems to be permanent, and no one really tells you that before they administer it. So I think we do a lot with helping people that have cancer now as far as alternative treatments. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I just kind of go off what worked for me. Never took any painkillers, although people kept prescribing them. I just never took them. I never took them.
Huh?
No, I have my medical marijuana card down here. That's really been a godsend. I still have some pain and cramping at night now. That's from the radiation, and I'm not really an outward here in your face advocate for it, but it's certainly been brilliant for me. And like I said, no oxy, no painkillers, not even after getting home from the surgery. I just never needed it. So
amazing.
How are you doing today? How are you? Are you in the clear right now?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Like I said, it's just getting into the routine with my diet, and I do have to take it easy on the drinking and that, and you go in spurts with these things, and St. Patrick's month, we call it here, it gets to be tough. I have to behave myself, but you get in a routine and you deal with it. Like I said, I think the radiation has lingered on. Yep. But you certainly know how to deal with these things. And, quite frankly, when I was going through my treatment and the surgeries, I always look back and remember, some of the things that Marv Wood said about being resilient. And I took every radiation treatment, especially at the end, like it was a big day on Sunday. And I'm going to win. I'm going to beat this thing. And that's basically how I looked at it. And I went to the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland. My surgeon, Herman Kessler, German, fantastic, one of the best in the world, and he did a heck of a job, and I was lucky to get there, and lucky to be treated so well there. And that was huge. That was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great, man. It's a great story. I'm glad everything's on the up and up, and you're feeling better today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So going back a little bit with football, what was one of your favorite memories playing with the Bills?
Well, I think obviously the comeback game was huge, but one of the things I go back to was my first mini camp there. Actually, let me go back even farther. The day I signed with Buffalo, we showed up in Orchard Park with my parents, my agent, in a limo and that. We get out and there's 1,500 Bills fans protesting my arrival because they love Scott Norwood so much, which is fine. Is fine because now I realize Scott and I are pals now, of course, but back then I was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm a local. I'm almost a local.
Right.
I realized it wasn't me. It was whoever was going to be the next guy for Scott. They loved him. And when Scott, I'm sure you remember when Scott was at the rally after the Super Bowl, after the Giants Super Bowl, and Scott spoke, I thought that was one of the classiest sporting things that I've ever seen. I mean, I absolutely love Scott for that. And so I get to mini camp, and Scott's still there. So Scott and I went head to head at mini camp, and that was tough. That was tough because I also realized how much his team felt about him. And like I said, I was the next guy, and I had to earn respect there. I had to, like, why are you here?
Right.
And so there's a bit of that. And I think after the comeback game and maybe, during that season, I started, earning the trust of my teammates. In fact, I was in the elevator after a game with Bruce Smith going from the basement up to the admin office. And Bruce looks at me and he goes, there's a few other media in there, but Bruce looks at me and he goes, man, you're pretty skinny, but you got one hell of a leg. And I said, I'll take that as a compliment. I've always been skinny. What are you going to do?
Hey, guys, if you're just joining us, we are with former NFL kicker Steve Christie. If you have any questions, put them on the board. We'll read them off to him. John Pappas, one of our sponsors from Geddes Bakery, said stud kicker. He was money. So, and John, by the way, Steve heard about your place, Geddes Bakery, and he said the food sounds amazing. So if he ever comes up this way, we're going to have to take a ride over and visit you, and we'll send Steve home with some goodies from your place. So he's looking forward to that. So, Steve, I got to ask you, now, I did read a little bit that you were coaching your daughter at one time. Will you coach at all anymore?
I'm coaching. I do private sessions down here. In fact, I was asked to coach a soccer player who's already graduated. He's a senior this year.
Okay.
He wanted to kick. And he was kind of like me, where although he did it a little bit later than I did, he had never played in a football game. And so I've been with him, I think, now for about 5 weeks. And he just signed with a D2 school, almost a full ride.
Oh, wow. Nice.
We've been working really hard. And I basically did the film, did the charting, and I know a few guys around, and they knew people that needed kickers. And next thing you know, the guy's going to Concord University in West Virginia. So, yeah, I'm coaching that way. But I also volunteer at my daughter's high school. And that was to keep an eye on her. While I'm also volunteering with the football team. So last year I worked with, I think, 4 or 5 guys, kickers and punters, as a volunteer. Now, what's good about volunteering is I come in for practice once a week and I show up for Friday Night Lights. And then I get to leave. I don't have to hang out.
Right.
Like everyone else. Like,
right.
Good job, boys, or bad job, or whatever.
Right.
Next week we'll discuss, and that's it. But I have to say this. Growing up in Oakville, I went to a really good high school, Trafalgar High School, but we played a lot of our high school games right after school. In fact, the last period, I think, was still going on, so that when school let out, kids would be walking their bikes through the end zone while the game was on, and there'd only be 20 people there, and those are the dads who skipped work to come see us. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I think high school hockey was a lot bigger. And then our Friday Night Lights or Saturday Night Lights, you might get 200 people. So going to William & Mary, where there was 12,000 at home, that was a big jump.
Oh, yeah.
Friday Night Lights here, I'm in Lakewood Ranch, part of Bradenton. At Lakewood Ranch High School, we have a new coach who's done a tremendous job in turning the team around. But the band is bigger than any crowd we ever had. The whole fan section is amazing. It is like a small college atmosphere. And I enjoy that too.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I have to say though, the weather in down here on our coast is crazy. Our first high school game was delayed, I think, about 3 hours. I didn't get home till 12:30. You get one strike of lightning, the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's a reason for that. One strike of lightning, you wait half an hour.
Yep.
We were sitting there for hours, and the kids are in the locker room. They're going nuts. And finally, we get out there and play, and that happened a few times where, you don't get that in Buffalo. You may get it every once in a while.
Right.
It happens all the time.
All the time down Florida. Yeah, absolutely. What I want to ask you is, who are some of your closest friends that you played with in Buffalo?
Well, there's a few of the guys. I mean, Ethan Albright and I still connect. Mark Maddox and I just connected yesterday. There's a bunch of guys around, but it's funny because not that many guys were from Buffalo anyway. Some stay, like Tasker's up there, Thurman Thomas, Jim's up there, but a lot of guys go back home. I mean, Ethan Albright, our long snapper, he's down in Carolina. Adam Lingner, our other long snapper, I think he's in Texas somewhere. I mean, the guys are all over the place, but because of social media, it's been pretty cool. And then Jeremy Kelly with the Bills has done a great job with Marlon Kerner getting all of the guys together, all the alumni together. I go up, I think I saw about 5 games last year. We always go to the Bills Miami game down here. That's a crazy time, but you go to a number of games and you get to see a lot of your old teammates that way. And I think that's pretty cool. Another guy I see, or I've talked to a lot, is Darren Bennett. He was a punter. He was the Aussie in San Diego. He was kind of like me, where we weren't football guys. We came from other sports and gave it a go, and we're lucky enough to make it. And Darren and I, we keep in touch because he's still coaching as well. He's coaching punters, so I'm always on his ear about my guys. Going, okay, what do I do? What do I do?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, do you have any? Now, this is a question I love to ask. Do you have any pregame rituals that you do, like listen to a certain song or band, or eat a certain food, or you got any rituals as being a kicker?
I think a lot of people think kickers are superstitious, but I was not. The only thing I did before a game was I read the program. That I sit down. I love to get there early, so get the zone on. Get where I need to be mentally, and then grab the program. Read it front to back, go get stretched, and get out there and get it done. Other than that, no specific food. Like Chris Moore would have an egg and bacon sandwich every Sunday morning. Same thing. I want a bacon and egg sandwich. Same thing. I could care less. I wasn't nervous, but I just wasn't that hungry. After the game, famished. But I just, as soon as we wake up in the morning, especially where we stayed for home games. It was a Sheraton, then it's Milan, whatever it is, the hotel over by the mall. We walk out. At the end of our hallway was a big picture window right in front of the 3 flags. And there were days where we'd walk to that window and Chris and I would go, oh, man, those flags were straight across. It's going to be one of those days. Hold on. That ball's going to go everywhere. We just knew it. But that was part of the challenge, too. Like, I knew going from Tampa to Buffalo that my stats would drop a little bit, but to be part of a winning team was worth it. And it was challenging. It was challenging.
Sure.
Once you got into November, December, it was cold.
Oh, yeah.
Really cold.
I was going to say, sitting on the sideline, just as regular players can get a little cold, but for a kicker, if you're not kicking those extra points, you're sitting on the sideline for a while. So you're going into a game where it's, 15, 20 below zero, boy. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I punted in college, and at least in college, I was out there a bit more. I had more to do, and I was obviously, I didn't have to worry about. Well, in college, I had to worry about our offense sputtering on third down anywhere in the field, whereas in the pros, I just, if they cross the 50, I better get ready, right? At least in college, I was certainly available, and then I had a lot more to do. And then, I get to Buffalo, and like you said, when the weather starts turning, you can stand next to the heater all you want. You're still getting tight. So, I wasn't a guy to hit too many footballs in the net, but I was definitely walking around trying to stay loose. But there's a certain point where you just can't. I remember a game against the Jets. Frank was holding, and I think we needed a field goal sometime at the end of the game, whatever. I remember hitting the ball, but I didn't feel it. It was that cold, and it's all muscle memory. That's when you count. It's like golf. You really count on your swing and your technique. because that's all you have.
Right.
You can't feel the ball. There's no control, and it's like hitting a brick. So I think it was that game or another game, and I remember, after the game, we're all going to the showers, and Frank's feet were blue. I said, "Man, you go see the trainer. That's not normal."
Yeah.
Like, that's how cold, and everybody just gets so numb, but their heads are in the game, and it's your job. So you don't think about it, and you're out there, and then until afterwards, you're like, hey, wait a minute. You're going to get those cut off if you don't see the trainer.
Exactly.
So what's one of the things you miss most about playing?
Well, I think it's Sunday afternoons. I really miss the buzz. I miss the pressure. During the week, a lot of the practices and the meetings and stuff were, you're kicking a ball. You don't need to be in all that. I'm glad I did go to all the meetings. Bruce DeHaven said that, I know you guys don't have that much to do, but I want you in all the meetings. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot about coverages and returns and certain responsibilities on special teams that I wouldn't have otherwise. But all in all, I think I miss game day. I love the pressure. I love, the fourth quarter and overtime. That was my thing. I really got pumped up for that time of the game and the opportunity. And I never said I would win a game. I always say I'd finish it, because all the other guys got us there to do it. Right.
Right.
And like I said, I come on the field for 1.3 seconds or less.
Right.
And hopefully finish it off. And there you go. That's my job. That's what I liked about it. Again, what I didn't like about it was having to kick off at the end of my career from the 30. They changed it to 35. But I must say, I probably wouldn't have been too happy about the whole extra point being pushed back either, because I think we've noticed now that we've got guys missing 4 or 5 a year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not that they're makeable kicks, of course, but I think it's getting in everyone's head a little bit.
Right.
But, I always joke, too, that with special teams, with kicking and everything else going on, eventually it'll just be one post. And if you don't hit that, you get nothing. I mean, what's going to happen next?
Right. You're right.
There's certain coaches and there's certain old school that don't want kicking in there. I mean, I get it. Because it is totally separate from offense and defense.
Yeah, it is different. So a question I want to ask you, what does Steve Christie do in his spare time for hobbies? What do you like to do?
Well, because of COVID, I have my own honeydew list, and my wife has another honeydew list. I've almost painted the outside of the house. I'm almost done. I was doing that today. We live in this neighborhood where everybody gets their grass done. I do my own landscaping. I'm kind of picky about it. I don't want a guy, cruising through here on a tractor. I want to cut it myself. Right. I'm still coaching. I still paint. I have my real estate license down here. My wife does too. And she's the one I'm kind of her mop boy. So, she takes all the clients around, and I'm like, okay, what do we have? What's good? What's bad? And, she's done a really, really nice job of it down here. So I enjoy helping her with that. But I have to say, I love coaching. I think it's so gratifying for me to be able to help somebody, because a lot of people help me. And, I love being able to give back that way. And then my youngest daughter is 17. She turned 17 yesterday, and going into her senior year, she's a rower. And she's starting to look like a rower, so we don't mess with her a whole lot. Yeah,
she's got some big arms and shoulders.
She's getting bigger and bigger, so we don't say a whole lot. But I really enjoy, especially with COVID, I really have appreciated the extra time I've been able to have with her. She had to do this whole semester's been online. So she's been home all day, other than crew, other than training. Some of her training she had to do on her own, and some was with the team, in steps. But like I said, I think Florida has been pretty lenient with their response to COVID. We've been quite fortunate with that. Unfortunately, now I think we're starting to get a bit of a resurgence of it, or at least a reality check of it. That unfortunately, I don't think we're out of the clear yet. So, but with that being said, it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to spend some quality time, at home with her that I wouldn't have, usually.
Right. Absolutely.
So, during some of your games, was there something that was like the craziest just situation that's happened to you while playing?
No, nothing too crazy. I can just remember making some pretty decent tackles on kickoffs, and then also missing a few tackles on kickoffs. Tackles I should have made, tackles that, I think it was against the Jets, and I can't remember who the returner was, but he basically just ripped by me, and it looked like I just gave him a high five on the way through. It was bad. There's there's situations like that where, and I ran a 4.8, which isn't too good for the NFL. That's why I was a kicker. So you got a guy running a 4.2 with the ball, and he's kind of zipping by me, and it does look like I'm giving him a high five because I didn't have the angle. So every once in a while I was lucky enough to get somebody. It was usually on the sideline.
Right.
I did manage to get Ironhead Hayward down.
Wow.
Although he could have broken my leg. It was almost like a soccer tackle, and I kind of pulled him over my leg as he was driving through me. So it wasn't a crazy thing. It could have ended up pretty badly.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
I promised myself I'd never tackle like that again.
Oh, man.
Like push him to somebody else.
Right. And like you said, some of those missed tackles end up on NFL reels as the blooper section.
Yeah, these were bad, but not
that bad.
I never really got trucked over, but just more like whiffs.
Yeah.
It's like here's your sandwich on the way by. It just didn't look that good on film on Monday. But,
Steve, what kind of advice you got for high school kids playing football now? Kind of give them a little advice on, if they want to get to that next level, or even play college football and stuff. What kind of advice would you give them?
What's interesting about that is that I talked to the special teams coach at Lakewood Ranch High School, and he was basically saying that the one thing that he's noticed over the years coaching is that kids aren't outside as much anymore playing any kind of sports. They're playing video. They're watching TV. They're on their phones. They're doing this, that, and the other. I think there needs to be more. I think the kids need to lift more at the right age. You have to be careful and you have to ease them in, but kids have to be a little bit more active. And he basically said that some of these guys coming into high school football aren't as tough and they're not as strong as you would think they would be. The kids are getting bigger.
Yeah, right.
And they're taller. Some of them are pretty darn big kids.
Yeah.
But they don't have that toughness yet. And I think that's stemming from, being hooked on TV, being hooked on video games instead of actually going out there and doing it. Dave Binner, old snapper from the Chargers, he went to Cal Berkeley, and he's from that area, and he has basketball courts behind his parents' house. He said growing up, every day they were packed. He goes and sees his parents now. Nobody is out there. And this is before COVID. Nobody is out there. And that tells you something. My advice to high school kids and the guys that I coach now, it's like, hey man, get in the gym and tell yourself that you want to be that guy in the video game, not playing the guy in the video game. You want to be that guy, but you have to work for it. And you have to have the desire to go out there and get it. And you have to have the discipline. Your buddies go out on Friday night for a couple of pops, even in high school. Fine, be the DD. That's what I did. Not all the time, but I was the DD a lot of the time. And in Canada and now here everywhere, thank God, the DUI rules are pretty tough, as they should be.
Right.
But that's your excuse. If you're going to be a committed athlete, then you be the DD.
Yeah.
And I think that's great advice in the part that you're training, whatever your training regimen is, you need time to heal, but you need time to get strong. You need time to get tough in any sport. And the competition is still out there. There's still competition.
Now, if Steve Christie didn't play in the NFL, what would you be doing? What would your occupation be? If you were a football player, what would you say you'd be doing?
Well, I wanted to be an architect. I ended up being an art major. I started at William & Mary in the architecture program, and the professor pulled me aside. He says, look, I know why you're here. I know you're with the football team, but you cannot miss any of these labs, and they are during practice, and it's not like we do makeup. So when I was in high school, I designed my own house. I did all the blueprints. It was something I really wanted to do. I still love architecture. I love design. I love art. But I think that's something I would have pursued was architecture. Yeah, one of my fraternity brothers at William & Mary played baseball, but because their schedule was a little bit different than ours, he was still able to do that.
Interesting.
Who would you say would be your most inspirational coach? Or
Marv Levy, without a doubt. He was a great educator. He was a teacher, not a yeller. I responded to that. I respond to quotes from, Churchill or whoever, Shakespeare. he would take real life situations and apply them to games and apply them to situations in a football game or during the week. He just had this sort of mystique about him that he knew exactly what was going on, and everybody knew what we knew what he wanted from us. We didn't have to be told. And he had a nice job of letting the coaches do a lot of that for him, but he also trusted that nucleus that Bill Polian and Marv Levy put together. Bruce Smith, Jim Kelly, Thurman, Andre, all those guys, James Lofton, Pete Metzelaars. You had a bunch of leaders in that locker room. Cornelius Bennett, Tally. There's so many guys in there that led by example. And I think because of how he handled those players, because believe me, they're characters. I mean, they all have a certain thing about them, right? They were all leaders in their own right. And they were all obviously all-American college football players, right? And to get those guys to play together and then to have the commitment from not only Bill Polian, but Ralph Wilson at the time to keep that nucleus of players together, that goes back to Marv and Bill. I mean, you get them to play together and you keep them together. And I think that showed me that you don't have to be a rah-rah yeller guy. Now, mind you, with other teams with different setups, I had coaches that yelled a lot. Mind you, a lot of them was at the younger guys, at the rookies, and quite frankly, sometimes they do need that. They need to keep their pants, right? Like, don't forget why you're here. Don't burn the candle on both ends.
Yep.
And this is something that will end pretty quickly if you take it for granted, you're out of here. Simple as that. But with Marv, I don't think that was ever in question. You knew what your responsibility was, and you also knew that there's guys coming in all the time. Tuesday's your day off. That's workout day. When I was with the Giants, whether they needed guys or not, they'd have 10 guys every Tuesday coming in to work out. Wow. Kickers, punters, line, whoever, anybody that was on the street that had promise, they'd bring in and work out, and that's the reality of it all. Yeah. But again, I think now here's a little bit trivia for you. Okay. My head coach Jimmy Laycock at William & Mary was coached by Lou Holtz and Marv Levy.
Wow.
And Jimmy Laycock coached Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott.
Really?
So there you go.
That's a heck of a group.
I've had some pretty good coaches.
You ain't kidding.
Yeah. I mean, you consider what those two have done in the league.
Wow.
So, and I think there's a lot more coming from Sean. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'd have to say that to get somewhat conversational here, but when they signed Sean McDermott as the head coach in Buffalo, I was like, hold on now. Yeah. This isn't just another guy passing through. Yeah. Wait till you see what happens. And he's not even close to being done. I mean, they've done some great things personnel-wise. We finally get in the playoffs. We're finally getting a hint of what it's like to win. There's that attitude now. And it's kind of like Marv, where you know what your job is. Let's get it done. Yeah. We don't need to tell you what it is. Let's go out there and do it. And they're building a nice nucleus of guys, a nice combination of vets and young guys coming in. They're not crazy in the free agent market, spending money left and right. Right. I think they're really smart about how they're building the team. Our quarterback has a ton of potential. He's got a great arm. I'm excited every time he's back there. It does remind me of Jim Kelly, although he runs a bit more than Jim may have wanted. Yeah. But I think it's very exciting. I think there's a lot of things that are happening with the team that are very positive. And I think of anybody that's going to lead a team into COVID, into this situation, and be successful, it'll be Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talking about some of your former players, I'm going to read off 5 people, and give me the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear this name. This could be dangerous too, but no.
Is there a mute button?
There's no mute button. We're not putting you on mute. This will be easy. All right, Jim Kelly.
This is why I'm not writing a book.
I'm sure. You know what? At some point, you will write a book. I can see it.
I'll need help with the big words. But anyway, leader. Jim Kelly, leader.
Leader.
Born leader. I mean, from what I heard, thankfully I wasn't in the huddle, but if you screwed up, he'd tell you in front of everyone else, hey, man, run that route, or you missed this block, or you did this, or hey, man, do this properly. He was not afraid to tell anybody, hey, this is how it is. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And if I'm throwing the ball over there, you're supposed to be over there, get over there. That's it.
Okay. Thurman Thomas.
Hilarious.
Yeah?
He was funny. I mean, my first mini camp there, Scott Norwood aside, Thurman was talking about the coaching staff and how they screwed up in the Super Bowl against the Redskins. Like, just stood up, and it was, and everybody was in stitches, and Marv was even laughing. Like, everybody was laughing. But coming from Tampa, where everything was very strict, and you wouldn't think of it, it was. I thought it was hilarious. That was my first taste of Thurman Thomas and what he's like as a human being, and I thought it was so funny. And after that, I thought he was just a hilarious guy.
That's funny. How about Bruce Smith?
Almost superhuman. Like, he just, the way, I mean, he had the physique. We all know about that, but his attitude and just the way he handled guys out there to make those sacks. I think there was one game against the Oilers where I think he had 5 sacks. I mean, that's incredible to see a guy that big, that agile, so strong, so talented. I mean, that's, like I talked about before, there were so many guys that I was fortunate to play with, and you've mentioned 3 of them so far.
Yeah. What about Andre Reed?
Just quality person, quality guy. On the field, off the field, he's just so humble, laid back, great attitude, great sense of humor. Just a great guy to hang out with.
He just seemed to go out there and just play. I mean, you never heard anything bad about him. He just. And he played the game. He was so good, and he had great hands.
And his position was so hard too. All those runs over the middle, like, he's a target. Guys can pick him off at any point, and he's exposed. He's up in the air catching those footballs, and everything's exposed. He took some nasty hits.
Yeah, he had no fear going over the middle.
No, I mean, there's another quality guy right there.
Yeah. Okay, last guy, Marv Levy. We just talked a little bit about
the best. Even though now, mind you, he did win the Grey Cup. He has won, but getting that team to 4 in a row is unbelievable. And that goes to a whole bunch of people. But the fact that he did it and was so resilient himself to be able to come back and win some huge games to do it and get this team going year after year after year like he did, that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. A class act, too. Just a class act.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming to the end of the show just about, but we got one big thing coming up now. Now, Steve Christie's going to be entering the penalty box. Now, the penalty box segment of our show is I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you're going to give us a response on them. Now, there's some fun questions, some questions that people might want to know a little bit about Steve. So, here we are. We're in the penalty box with Steve Christie.
Okay, hold on. Is it a 2-minute? Is it a 5-minute? What did I do? Is it fighting, roughing, tripping? What did I do?
I'm going to say, well, you're from Canada. I'm going to say roughing.
Okay.
Canadians are a little rough.
A little extra in the corner.
Yeah, you gave it a little extra.
I can do that.
Into the boards.
All right.
So 2 minutes, roughing, Steve Christie, penalty box session. So, Steve, what's your favorite meal?
Curry. I love Indian food. Chicken tikka masala. Love it. I like spicy food, but I love Indian curries, man. I love them. We make them here at home. There's a great tandoor. It's a restaurant, Tandoor, in Sarasota we go to.
Okay.
We get it quite a bit.
Okay. And it's healthy food, right? Yeah. Okay. Favorite band or musician?
Well, I grew up outside of Toronto, and there's my dog.
There it is.
There's Chicago Lab. My favorite band growing up was The Cult. She Sells Sanctuary was my favorite song. I listen to everything now. Reggae, The Grateful Dead. I still listen to hard rock. I listen to everything almost. Everything almost. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. What about your best moment in the NFL?
Probably the longest field goal in Super Bowl.
How far?
Even though we lost, that was a shot. It was a shot for me anyway.
Yeah, that was what, 59?
54.
54.
Yeah.
That had to be. The dog wants to come in.
Oh, she's running around. She's okay.
All right. So, Rick,
right.
I can ask you this. hardest thing about playing in the NFL? What would you say?
I think the hardest thing playing in the NFL are the last few weeks of the season when you're not going to be in the playoffs. I think that's tough because, in college you play 11 games, and then you go to the pros and, you're looking at 17 weeks. And those last few weeks when you're not in the playoffs are tough because all you're playing for, obviously you're playing for your team, but you're also playing for your job, but you're not playing for the extended season, and I think that's pretty tough. That's tough. Yeah.
Okay. Last question then. If you could sit down with one person, whether they passed on, they're still around, and just shoot the shit and catch up with everything and have dinner with them, have that chicken curry dinner, who would that person be and why?
I have to say this. I have a number of answers for this.
Okay.
But I have to say that I've been very fortunate to already do that. My wife and I went to Glasgow, Scotland to see Celtic play Rangers at home at Parkhead. And Kelly and I were fortunate enough to sit with Martin O'Neill, who was the manager. 10 minutes before kickoff, we had tea in his office and he loved Marv Levy. So pal of mine, Hugh Heron from Toronto, he has season tickets at Celtic. My dad calls him, we get this whole Celtic network thing going. And before you know it, Kelly and I are in his office before the match starts. And he, even though he's from Northern Ireland, just like Marv, the attitude and everything, just the way you can tell he was a teacher. And I think that was one of my moments where, I sat with somebody who he was the manager of Celtic at the time, got the club to the European Cup final, the Euro final. We lost to Porto, but that was one of the situations where I was with a guy that I really looked up to and still do. And I thought that, having tea with him was as good as a curry.
That's awesome. That had to be good just to kick back and kind of talk to him and hear the stories and stuff.
Well, the funny thing is, too, like I said, it was right before the match started. He was wearing his suit and everything, and Kelly and I were all dressed up, and we go to our seats, and I don't know what he was doing. He's like Superman. He was in a tracksuit on the sideline before we even sat down. I'm like, man, he really is Superman.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Well, guys, we're finishing up with Steve Christie here. Steve, I tell you, man, it was a great story, man. We hear everything on TV, we see everything on TV, but to actually sit down and talk with you and stuff, boy, definitely an inspiration, man. I mean, you like you said, you were a soccer player, you turned into a football player, you had a great NFL career, made some of the biggest clutch field goals in NFL history, and you battled through cancer, and you fought that and beat that, and now you're enjoying life. You're coaching, you're doing what you want to do and stuff, so, it was a great story. We really appreciate you coming on tonight and giving us an hour of your time and telling everybody about you and what you're all about.
Well, I appreciate it, but like I said before, I couldn't have done it by myself. There's so many teammates and coaches out there, so many quality guys that I was just fortunate to be with. And first of all, fortunate enough to break into the league with Tampa. Coach Perkins basically believed in a nobody from a small school, and that's where my career started. I was lucky to get that going, but then, he got fired that year. It wasn't because of me, but, but then obviously having the opportunity to go to Buffalo was absolutely just magical. And what an opportunity for me to be so close to home and to be part of a great team like that. That's something you just luck into. And I was just fortunate to be there. And like I said, we've mentioned all these great players, but I'm telling you that was an unbelievable time in Bill's history and in NFL history.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And remember, if you ever come up upstate New York, look me up. We'll get you some great food up here in upstate. We'll take you around town and bring the family up. I think it'd be a fun time. We always tell our guests, if you come up this way, up to near Syracuse, Utica, make it a point, man. We'll take you around. It'll be a good time.
Oh, I will. Believe me. We love to eat. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, guys, we are just finishing up with Steve Christie, former NFL kicker. Great show tonight, Ryan. Another great show, man. Thanks for coming on and hanging out with us. Remember, Thursday night is our next show. We have former NFL running back Leroy Collins, one of the most fantastic seasons he had at Louisville. and going into the NFL. And he's got a great story behind him. So join us on Thursday at 7 to 8 and hear Leroy Collins. And then we finish off the last show of the month with former Houston Oiler Chris Dishman will be joining us, hard-hitting safety out of Houston. So we got 3 NFL players in a row. So a good way to end the month of June. But Steve, once again, man, thank you so much for joining us. You and your family be safe down in Florida, and we'll definitely stay in touch with you.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Also, guys, I want to thank Out of the Way Cafe, our sponsors tonight. Out of the Way Cafe, Geddes Bakery, Hillside Seasonal Services, and Bossone Sausage in Utica. Thank you guys for sponsoring tonight's show and being a part of No Time for Nonsense. Everybody, you guys stay safe and have a good night. We'll see you guys on Thursday.